someone born into a political family, my heart goes out to the vice president's daughter, Charlotte Pence, who shares how her dad taught her to rise above it all in her new book, Where You Go, Life Lessons from My Father. Please welcome my friend, Charlotte Pence. Again.
Great to see you.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and this book, I am so excited about it. Your father's obviously Vice President Pence, and in this book you share some of the life lessons that he has taught you. What do you think is the most important thing he has taught you?
Well, I mean, first off, just speaking of awesome dads, I just want to offer my condolences to your family. I know you were raised by an amazing dad as well, so we have that in common. I think the most important thing that I hope comes across in the book is that my dad always taught us to follow our dreams, but not to forget our family or our faith along the way. And so to kind of bring those people that you love with you on your journey. So it's probably the most important lesson, I'd say.
Well, your dad's been in public office for 18 years now, and the country's still very much getting to know Vice President Pence. Give us a sense of who he is as a dad, the person that we don't always see in front of cameras.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, I kind of wanted to show people the dad side of him, I think, you know, and the lessons that he's taught me my whole life. And I hope that people can kind of be uplifted and inspired by those lessons. And I hope that really anyone can kind of relate to these stories and can find some kind of meaning in them, for sure.
Yeah, as you know, it's a tough time in this country. It is so divided, and not everyone is happy with the Trump administration. I can only imagine the hate that you get on social media, and you follow, I do, Don Jr., and he just fires it right back at people. It's got to be hard. I mean, Megan and I understand this too, being in a political family and loving your dad so much and receiving a lot of the hate. How do you handle that?
You're very classy about it.
Yeah, how do you handle it? I'm sure it's difficult.
Don't read it.
Well, you know, honestly, I mean, I think that I talk about this in the book a little bit, that my dad, you know, he, whenever we see protesters at events, he always says that's what freedom looks like. And so we were kind of shown that, yeah, growing up, that, you know, as a daughter, yeah, I mean, it's hard to see negative things said about someone that you love. But as an American, it makes me really proud that the system is working the way that it's supposed to work.
It is what it is. You have to take it. Even if the country wasn't that divided, you'd still get hate mail. It's the way it is.
It's all part of the public life.
And I understand that you spent time with the Trump family before your family decided to join the Trump ticket.
Yeah.
Tell me, what do you see in them that I don't see? And don't stick that rabbit on me again. Last time she was here, she brought this vicious rodent rabbit.
And it went right for joy.
Because I'm a Democrat, and that rabbit knew it.
He loved you. He loved you.
Go ahead.
No, I think that, you know, it was cool that when I was home for that summer when in 2016 when all that was happening, I did get to meet the Trumps. And so that was really important to my dad and my mom, that I kind of got to know them as a family. And they've just been unbelievably kind to us and really inclusive. Just to see them work together as a really strong family unit, it's kind of been inspiring to me.
They're kind of the opposite of your family, though.
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, your father, I don't think your father lives in an apartment with gold all over the place, right?
That's true. We did not grow up that way, no.
You know, Charlotte, you worked on your dad's campaign. I worked on my dad's campaign. I think that's why I like you so much, is because there's a lot of similarities between our relationship with our dads. You wrote speeches. You helped him do debate prep. I can remember helping my dad with debate prep. One of the hardest things for me was addressing women's issues, especially at the time I was in my early 20s. I know you helped your dad prep for women's issues. What advice did you give him?
Yeah, I did. One of the coolest things I got to do was kind of help him with the vice presidential debate prep. And when he was starting to kind of frame his arguments about the pro-life issue, he was talking about a lot of policy points and legislation. And I remember just telling him to speak from the heart and to really show the compassion that I know he has for both sides of that issue. And I think he did that in a really effective way in the debate. So it was great to be able to help him do that.
That's something that people don't understand about political families, is everyone's like, well, you've got the operatives and they get paid to do their job, but it really, at the end of the day, is about the family that's around them, whether it's debates or other things that are, you know, that your parent comes to you for advice.
My dad always listened to me the most too, which I don't know if that's the way it is with you, but it always made me feel so, I don't know, empowered that he would always listen to me.
Well, my father totally ignored me, so let me move on. And I appreciated that. So I want to talk about I'm sitting here with the three of you. It's really like kind of weird.
So good.
You know? Oh, my dad, the senator, my dad, the vice president, my dad, the truck driver, okay? So anyway, I love this one thing about your father, the Pence rule, we call it, or you call it, or somebody does, because he says that to protect his marriage, he will not eat dinner alone. He has to be with your mother or some other chaperone of some sort.
Yeah.
Is that really true? I mean, even
Yeah.
the Pope sits with a woman once in a while. What?
Well, you know, growing up, I just always watched my parents really have this strong marriage that really worked for them. And so, you know, my dad always put my mom first, no matter what. And so that was just something that I hope to emulate one day. But he just I always knew his relationship with my mom came above his relationship with anybody else. And that's where the Pence rule came from.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
he didn't have dinner alone, is what he said, right? With another
no dinner
woman.
alone.
Yeah.
No.
I like the Pence rule. I mean, my husband and I have talked about it a lot too, especially in this era. And if you're public people sometimes, if you see a man with anyway, I like the Pence rule. You were there with your father when you guys went to see Hamilton, and the cast came out and they made a statement about your father. What were you thinking when that was happening?
Yeah, that was an interesting experience, and my dad and I really grew up. I write about this in the book too. We grew up going to Broadway shows together, so I was definitely not really expecting that kind of a response. But I think I just have such a passion for storytelling and the arts, and I think that they're a great way to start that conversation, important conversations. And so, you know, our dinner table was always very open ground for everyone's opinion. And so I think that was just another way that I was kind of learning to be on the receiving end of that conversation for the first
Was
time.
your father upset about it?
No.
He knew that's part of
His
being
response was very classic.
Yeah, it really, one of the classiest responses I've seen to something like that. So the last time you were on with us, you brought your bunny, as we talked about, Marlon Bundo, who inspired your children's book. But as the book was being released, and that's why you came on the show, John Oliver also put out a competing book about a bunny who falls in love with another male bunny, I guess meant to take a shot at your father's views on homosexuality. Was that hurtful to you? How did that make you feel?
You know, I saw it as a net positive thing. I think that, you know, our book was giving money to charity, and John Oliver's book was also giving money to charity, and I actually ended up buying John Oliver's book as well, because I want to support those charities too. And so I think that when you're in the public eye, you know, you have to kind of be ready for any kind of reaction or attention that way. I was surprised by it, but at the end of the day, I mean, we have two books about my bunny giving money to charity, so it's not a negative thing in my mind.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
You don't like the bunny, Joy.
That bunny is vicious. Whether it's gay or straight, that bunny's vicious.
Well, look at it. Wait, it bit you.
Oh, there, you see?
That bunny's no dummy.
Went ham right for you.
They have ticks.
He loves you.
That bunny's cute, whatever. Charlotte, thank you so much for coming on. Her book, Where You Go, Life Lessons from My Father, is available right now. We'll be right back.
I want to go back to, I'm going to call it my take. It's the editorial at the top of the hour. I'll do that just in a few moments. But first, Tillerson out as Secretary of State. Pompeo is in. Joining us now, Mark Lotter, former press secretary for Vice President Pence. Your reaction to this turmoil at the top, Mark? A lot of people don't think it's a very good thing. What say you?
I think the president is just continuing to show the strong leadership that he has shown the last 14 months. He decided that despite the fact that Rex Tillerson is a great man and done some great work for our country, that we need a change, especially as we're heading into these historic times with negotiations or talks with North Korea, confronting Russia's continued aggression and other issues on the world stage. The president has a lot of confidence in Director Mike Pompeo, and he will make an outstanding Secretary of State.
All right, I want to get back to my editorial, top of the hour. Vice President Pence calling on Joy Behar to make a public apology for her comments about Christianity. I said the Vice President is a good man. I think that Behar should make a public apology. What say you?
I absolutely agree with you that the vice president is a good man, and I do believe she should apologize. This is no different than what Hillary Clinton said in India the other day, you know, basically calling the middle of America backwards. This is the utter contempt that the left has for anyone who might disagree with them. It's wrong for Hillary Clinton to do it. It's wrong for Joy Behar to do it, and she does owe anyone of faith an apology for those comments.
But it's such a double standard, isn't it? Had Joy Behar insulted any other religion, I don't care which one you choose, anything else, you know, she might have been out of a job. But you insult Christianity, you insult the Christian faith, you stay there, and so far, no public apology. I want you to address this double standard. Go.
It is so disappointing that the people on the left, especially who consider themselves to be champions of tolerance, are completely intolerant of anyone who does not think exactly like them. We're seeing it with Joy Behar's comments. We're seeing it with Hillary Clinton calling the heartland backwards. It's just wrong, and it's one of the reasons why Democrats continue to struggle electorally, because they just don't have a message that resonates with the vast majority of Americans.
Quickly, what do you think of the election in Pennsylvania today? I say it's a referendum on President Trump, both his style and his policies. From your point of view, he'd better win.
Elections are always turn on local issues, but in this case, I think it's more of a referendum on the president's policies, in that, do you want more money in your pocketbook? Do you want more jobs and economic growth in our country? If you do, vote for the Republican. If you want to go backwards, back to stagnant wages, back to slow growth, vote for Connor Lamb and take us back to when America's economy was struggling to keep up.
Mark Lotter, time absolutely flies when you've got a jam-packed news day, and it just flew on by. Mark, thanks for joining us, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Yes.
Last night, the vice president was on Sean Hannity talking about the recent conversation he had with Joy Behar. Take a look.
You and I know that criticism comes with public life, but I felt it was important that I defend the faith of tens of millions of Americans against that kind of slander, and I did so. And, you know, I give Joy Behar a lot of credit. She picked up the phone, she called me, she was very sincere, and she apologized. And one of the things my faith teaches me is grace. Forgive as you've been forgiven.
So does mine, but I'm not as good at it as you.
Well, look, but I said to Joy, of course I forgive you. That's part of my faith experience. But I did encourage her, and I'm still encouraging her, to use the forum of that program or some other public forum to apologize to tens of millions of Americans who were equally offended.
So I think Vice President Pence is right. I was raised to respect everyone's religious faith, and I fell short of that. I sincerely apologize for what I said.
Okay.